So I was thinking about this whole aspect of anger, and I was thinking of doing short, small videos of anger. And maybe you're asking, why anger? And why are you wanting to do anger? Well, I think I qualify to talk about anger because I'm the most angry person in my understanding. And this last many years, I've been trying to figure out what causes anger, why do we get angry, what triggers anger, and just thinking about this anger, I just thought it'll be nice if we actually think about anger, talk about anger, get to understand what leads to anger and how this whole process of anger comes to be, and how we could probably work on it, and also how to get rid of it. Interestingly, I've also been sending out a few requests to some friends of mine, both in India and out of the country, asking them to tell me, why do you get angry? So they're all recording different replies and sending it back to me. And one of them said, I hope to hear from you on anger management.
I get frustrated and angry when people don't help others and a selfish character. They always keep the selfish character. I don't like that. I get very angry when people don't help others.
So, as I talk about this series on anger, I'm going to use a few different kinds of methodologies and views on this. I'm going to take some video clippings of people who are going to be speaking about why they get angry. I'm going to take some quotes from popular people around the world, very interesting quotes to figure out what they feel on anger. And I'm going to use probably a few small short interviews from people asking them why they get angry. So what's the purpose of this whole video and this series is not to pinpoint at any one of us, not to beat us up, not to find fault with us, not to tell ourselves and tell others that we're bad. No, that's not the focus and the point of the series. The focus and point is to figure out why this happens, to understand how we deal with it, and the ultimate is to get rid of it. We don't want to have something in our life that is tearing us down and pulling us down versus lifting us and moving us forward. So this whole aspect of anger is, again, to help us all understand, learn from each other. Sometimes each one of us are going to have some perspectives and views that we would not have even thought about by ourselves. So we learn from each other, we listen to one another.
One of the things that makes me angry is when someone accuses me of something that is entirely false.
So if you come to think about it, anger is actually a spirit. Now maybe you're asking, what do you mean by spirit? Well, gluttony is a spirit. Jealousy is a spirit. Hatred is a spirit. And so anger is also a spirit. And so when you think about this word anger and find, why am I always into anger? Why is it affecting me? Why am I getting angry? Why is it causing things to happen to me? It's a spirit. Now, because it's a spirit, it can't be seen. Okay, you can't see a spirit, right? So anger is kind of like a spirit. It's contagious, and it's contagious in a different way. Unlike the pandemic that we are facing now, where someone sneezes or coughs, we get the corona. But anger is a spirit, and how do we deal with something that's a spirit? A few years back, I was thinking about my own life. As I said, I get angry a lot. I'm not the violent kind of angry guy. I don't beat my family. I don't beat people. I don't throw things. I don't break things. That's not the kind of anger I go through. But I go through anger very internally, and so it affects me first before it affects anybody else. It hurts me first before it hurts anybody else. And while I was thinking about this whole aspect of me facing anger and how anger affects me, I was trying to figure out the spirit part of anger and wonder, how did I get that spirit? And interestingly, you can research on this, you can explore on this, and you can find this out for yourself. You don't have to take what I'm telling you. But I found that because it's a spirit, it comes from our genealogy, it comes from our generations. Just like how some of our sicknesses are hereditary. You know, they say if you have a sugar condition, if your great-great-grandfather has a sugar condition, it's most likely that you'll get a sugar condition. If they have a heart issue, it's most... So just like how sicknesses and disease are hereditary and we get it through our DNA and our bloodline, the spirit part of it, anger being a spirit, that also transfers through our genealogy. And maybe our great-great-grandfather or great-great-grandmother or our father or grand. And so I figured that my grandfather was a pretty angry guy. He was a nice guy, but he was a pretty angry guy. And so because of that, it transferred a little to my dad. My dad was a loving guy, wonderful guy, never beat me at all, but he would get angry. Quite often he would get angry, and his anger is more like my anger, very internal anger. He doesn't demonstrate that anger in violence, but it's more internal. And so because anger is a spirit, we have to deal with it internally. There's no medication for it. There's no medicines on the shelf for it. Honestly, there's not much of counseling that can happen even with it. We'll talk about that later. But since it's internal, we know best how we can take care of this.